Hey friends, this is Tariq. Before we get going, I wanted to ask a quick favor. We've created a brief online listener poll to help us get to know you, our audience, and to get a feel for how you're listening to the show, what you like, and what we can do better. It only takes a few minutes and will be a huge help for us, leading to more great material for this season and the next. You can find the survey at tinyurl.com/TLG survey, also linked in the show notes. A big please and an even bigger thank you. We really appreciate your time and your dedication to the show.
You're listening to The Local Glow, an independent podcast
from Chicago, Illinois.
My name is Tariq Shihadah, and you're listening to The Local Glow. Marco Aziel, also known as Aaron, and his musical partner Travis Anderson are two great big hearts on the sleeves of southeastern Michigan's musical world, and together make up the emo-adjacent band Daddy and the Longlegs. The two-person outfit glimmers with youthful resilience and curiosity, and it glows with a strong balancing force of beyond their years' wisdom and emotional weight. Their recordings generally feature a heavier incarnation of their music, complete with drums and electric guitars, but today we hear them in a stripped-down setting. For many of their songs, it's the lyrics that hold the center stage, hallowed by measured lines of acoustic guitar and buoyant melodies on the somehow so Midwestern melodica. It's music to shut your eyes to, not brooding, despondent, or downcast, but the neighbor of these things. Their music, self-aware and strung up with irony, speaks plainly. It bears the sort of honesty you might expect between two old friends over a muffin and a cup of coffee. But here we listen in, almost eavesdropping, from the next table over.
The story is classic, it is textbook, fear of attachment. After a breakup, follow the trend that I'll drift away from my closest friends and they'll think I hate them. So my dearest, I think of you often and fondly. I swear I would call you, but there's something that stops me. It's irrational, I know. Every time I pick up the phone, I'll think that you've got better things to do than hang with me, so I'll leave you alone. And I wanna claw my watering eyes out every time I open my mouth, just to choke on the words as they reverse back through my throat, return to the black hole in my head where they'll echo. It's relentless, they will circle like sharks. When I cry there's no catharsis, and the waves I expected to rock me to sleep escalate, they turn against me. I'm confessing my fragility. I've been floating on the surface where it hurts less, where it's easy to ignore my own contents. But I can't contain this anymore. I can't contain this anymore. I can't contain this.
From the very first lines of their first song, all guards are let down. And that's where these two excel, where Marco's words can step us into this challenging space of vulnerability to start a conversation.
When I write, I do try to challenge myself to do that, because that feels like the most emotionally productive thing to write, is the thing that is challenging to say. Putting the words together that most accurately capture the thing that I've been feeling is satisfying for me personally, and also I think results in the best songs, so I kind of get very nitpicky about it. But that song in particular is probably one of the best examples, I guess, of what you're talking about. I usually consider myself to be somebody, or at least before I kind of started writing songs like that, I would consider myself to be not as in touch with myself emotionally as I should be. And that song was me really trying to challenge myself to be more honest with myself in that way.
Of course, writing music that probes your own inner psyche is one thing, and a terribly challenging step to take. But what about taking it outside? Singing these words to more than just the back wall of your bedroom? I asked Marco how he chose to step out and move from honesty with himself to honesty with a crowd of fans, friends, family, and strangers too.
Actually, the fact that if I'm playing for mostly strangers, that makes it easier, because especially if I'm writing songs that kind of reference or are inspired by experiences with real people in my home turf scene, those people might be around those shows. But I do always kind of bear in mind the hypothetical listener of a song when I'm writing it. There's always that kind of ever-present nervousness to saying those things that you might be scared to say in front of those people. But I wouldn't put it in a song if I was not going to perform it. I do kind of always write with the performance in mind, assuming that this song is going to be out there for people to listen to. And in a way, it's kind of cathartic to do that, to kind of say that stuff that's been kind of making me nervous, but to have it out there so that people can hear it is in its own way kind of gratifying.
There's a strange anonymity to the traveling musician that Marco is pointing at here. They'll stumble into town with a dusty van, pile of instruments, and a few songs to share. And we'll sit in squeaky chairs or stand scattered around the room and listen as our guest regales us with musical stories, lyrical confessions of personal struggle, political pain, honest reflections, while we all pretend this is totally normal, like we're all so emotionally in tune at this asymmetric confessional. We stand next to strangers while we all listen together to other strangers serenade us for a couple of hours with curated scripts that wrench our hearts in some weird crossover of emotional intelligence and entertainment. It's wild, rich, and fun, and then it's done, and the minstrel vanishes in a poof of dry ice smoke, leaving behind only t-shirts, stickers, and their latest vinyl pressing.
When you are the performer in that space, you are a little bit less of a person, not in a demeaning way, but you are the piece of art in the room. And that makes it kind of less nerve-wracking. People are listening to the song. People are appreciating the sound of your voice and the music, the notes and the harmonies or whatever. And some people, they just are wired in ways that they see immediately through all that into the person. But I feel a lot of people just are there to enjoy the art and not necessarily read into my soul, even though I'm just putting it out there, So it doesn't feel as invasive as it might to other people for me, I guess.
And perhaps not even as much as it almost should feel, with how personal you get and how much you're sharing. Because you wouldn't walk up to somebody on the street and start telling them stories of of the
No, I certainly wouldn't. I mean, not even people off the street. I have trouble sharing. I'm not somebody who is inclined. Some people are just very open and they'll share, they'll just tell you about some crazy thing that happened to them the other day. But I am the opposite of that. I'm very reluctant. Even if something exciting happened to me, there's some barrier in me that prevents me from really wanting to tell people about stuff that's happened in my life. But writing these songs from those places gives me that, just a different vehicle for it. And I do get to like protect myself more when I put it in a song because I get to choose, like I get to sit there and think about how I want to tell that story rather than just like saying it off the cuff.
Here's Travis, the other half of the band, on what it's like creating music with Marco.
I've known Marco since we were children. We went to the same church together. And so a lot of our foundational experiences in music we did together. So I know a lot about his life. So I know like all the stories behind the songs. So it's really easy for me to like objectively look at the lyrics and say, that's at this moment when this thing happened with that person. But like any music, it's really easy to kind of listen to it. And it's way easier when I'm not also playing, but I listen to his music on my own time because I'm just that type of person. And it's really easy for me to like put myself in the songs as well, especially like with Do You Want to Talk About It? I am the complete opposite. We hang out a lot and I can do all the talking. We could be together for 2.5 hours and 2 hours and 23 minutes of it will be me talking. You know what I mean? Whereas the question that gets asked to Marco a lot is, do you want to talk about it? And the answer is usually no.
That's what we say like when we introduce the song. It's like a little banter joke. Everybody loves it. When you're like, this song is called Do You Want to Talk About It? The answer is no.
And then it goes. But it is a little like a peephole into what's going on the other side of the door for sure.
Marco and Travis were both very young when they met, somewhere around the turn of the century. Their friendship started in Sunday school and grew from there through Lego Robotics Club, community and church events, and ultimately music. Marco comes from a particularly musical family. Their house is brimming with instruments of all kinds. I can attest to that. And the excitement for music and creativity inevitably spilled into Marco and Travis's relationship, starting with camp songs and church music.
We used to call them Youth Sabbath. The kids would do all the music for the church service.
As well as like readings and pretty much everything except for like the things that you require a priest for, like the magic hands and the...
So we'd have these big Sundays where all the kids would be doing everything. And even the older kids would write the sermons and everything. But I really wanted to do the music with that. So I think for the first one I sang, but then I had like kids deal Fender SGs or an Epiphone SG. Yes, and I learned how to play Awesome God on it. And like that was like the first song I learned on guitar other than like Smoke on the Water. You know what I mean? So like that was like big for me. And then I totally lost guitar and played drums for a really long time. His brother also played drums. So it was like, we're kind of always at odds.
That's not the only reason they were at odds. We were just like kids in like a little bit of an insular community, and you're always just at each other's throats at certain ages.
But yeah, that was truly the foundation of like the trajectory that became our like passion, I believe.
I'm making my bed, I'm folding my laundry, I'm cooking some breakfast, I'm putting on coffee, I'm working it out, concocting a theory for why I am so self-absorbed, self-defeating. I can't pin you down, I cannot contain or draw lines around you and give you a name, but you carved out the canyons that wind through my brain. I must climb for the rest of my life. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do when you come face to face with the truth? like apples and oranges, the difference between which holds little importance to those who are starving. But I am no poor man, you are your own tree. But I am in love, I am in love, I am in love like the wind, like the wind loves the sea.
In our conversation around this song, titled Like the Wind Loves the Sea, Marco explained that he tends to write about love the most because it's what he understands the least. In this way, his music pokes and prods through the depths of such experiences, lyrically meandering and self-exploring, trusting the writing process to lead him to some answers. As we stepped back to Travis and Marco's faith context, having grown into their music together, in large part through experiences at their church, I asked where they stand today and what role religion plays in their relationship, as well as their musical and personal lives.
We spent a lot of time in our youth doing church events. We went to summer camp. I worked on and off at summer camp. We also did another thing called Happening, which was like high school youth, run by youth for the youth. And we did a lot of that. Personally, about the time I aged out of that kind of stuff is about when like real life kind of punched me in the face and like I think everybody has a moment in which they like question, and like my questions just didn't get answered the way I wanted them to. So I kind of fell out of it hard around like 18. But I've since come back around to like, or really accepting the knowledge that I don't know and I'll never know, and it's a choice, right? My sister is going to be a priest one day, so it really stuck with her and resonates with her, and it did with me for a time, but it wasn't the solution to all my problems the way that I thought it would be when I was younger, and that was a hard pill to swallow.
I don't know if I could say that there was a tipping point, but I don't identify strictly with the kind of the religion in which I was raised. Not that I denounce it by any stretch of the imagination, but I can't deny that I had very many powerful, like formative experiences through the Episcopal Church. And if I had to have a church to grow up in, the Episcopal one is probably the most kind of up to date in terms of like how not to treat people like shit, that I'm aware of anyways, at least in the spaces that I've seen that are Episcopal. But where I am now is kind of like, I am fascinated with religion from a like anthropological standpoint, I guess, if that's the right word for it. I understand its value to people and how it works and how it can be life-saving for some people. Just the way that I am, if I don't form the ideas and experiences myself, then they're not really of value to me. So I kind of, no belief system that is like taught to me can really like resonate with me, kind of just like form my own beliefs and ideas. And a lot of them might be kind of like metaphysical in nature or kind of unprovable in the way that a lot of spiritual ideas are. But yeah, I don't like have a set identity like religiously or spiritually.
For all the musicians out there, the artists, the creatives, Isn't there, in your experience, some form, some degree of spiritual life that takes place in your creative space, in the world that you move through every time you're on stage, every time brush strokes canvas and the paints begin to travel and blend, and brand new shapes and sounds begin to form before you? I find myself going back sometimes, reading into the tiny noises in the background of my own recordings, the strange scratches in my voice, and the tones of my music, like it's scripture. I hear these songs with their singularities, like histories and prayers that feel timeless and more complex with every listen. There's no deeper study of the vast and confusing human experience than personal reflection. Over the years, just sort of looking back at what mattered to you, what made you sing, what made you break, and what bound you up again. Marco explained that he writes his music in part as a sort of prayer for himself, scripting reminders and tales of what's happened to him, how he's felt, and what it's meant. He does this for the days that will inevitably come when he loses sight of the whys and hows of moving forward through life and not back. Travis added that religion, when used right, perhaps becomes firstly a means for self-reflection. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Judy, and I am an illustrator working on children's books all about art. And you are listening to The Local Glow, an independent Chicago-based podcast about experiencing community through local music, poetry, and art. You can learn more about the podcast at thelocalglow.com, and you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram at The Local Glow. Being an independent show, they thrive on word of mouth, so please share this episode with your friends and listen on. Additionally, you can get in touch with them through thelocalglow@gmail.com, and they would love to hear your thoughts, curiosities, and story ideas. They'd love to hear from you. Anyway, back to the show.
We're back here with Marco and Travis of Daddy and the Long Legs. Thanks for sticking around. The band's next song, coming up in a couple minutes here, and titled "Hey, Good Set, Dude," is a little gem of irony and a pretty clever encapsulation of the average, everyday DIY music community in the Midwest in all its sweet, mediocre glory.
I was running sound at a house show in Ypsilanti, and we were hanging out in like the garage after the show with like the bands and the people who lived there, and it was like mostly musicians in the room. And so somebody was like, let's play this game. Like everybody write down like a prompt on a piece of paper, put it in a hat, pass around the hat. Like people draw out a prompt, and then you have to write a song on the spot. The prompt that I drew was vaping, and vaping to me conjures the image, especially when I was like having just witnessed this like house show environment. Vaping to me just conjures, in like that context, conjures the image of like you know, go outside after your set. And like back when I used to vape, like I kind of mostly did it because like literally to satisfy like that hand to mouth. Like I don't like, I'm not super about like nicotine really. I don't need it. It doesn't like do me any favors necessarily, but having something to do rather than just sit there and like kind of look around awkwardly, like wondering who you can start a conversation with or if you want to start a conversation with anybody.
Okay, I know all the introverts out there are cringing, knowing exactly what Marco is talking about. You're out there at some sort of event, and there's a break in the programming. A few minutes between bands at a show, moments between conversations at an unfamiliar party, and you just want a job. For the love of God, give me something to do with my hands. This is when you pull out your phone in case you got a text, or to check Instagram for the 1,000th time, knowing full well there's nothing new going on. When you walk clear across the room as if there's some pressing reason to be over there, but really you're just trying to pass the time until you come up with something better to do, or you magically become a social wizard. These are the moments when I can empty a pint glass in less than a minute, taking 1,000 uneasy sips, waiting for the moment to pass. But even more than this all too relatable feeling, this song that he's talking about is about privilege as it shows up in local music.
So many like touring acts and musician types in general are just like, white dudes with cuff jeans, because we tend to be the ones who kind of have the resources to go out and tour, to go play those shows, to buy the gear, So really, if there's a point to the song, it's the last line where it's something to think about a lot, is questioning, like what am I doing that's worth being here? What am I contributing to this? Or am I just taking up space that maybe somebody else really deserves a shot at? And it's a balancing act, kind of answering that question.
Being a part of the scene and seeing it time and time again in different places that we go, you do kind of take notice, especially with the help of people who experience it more than we do. There is like a gatekeeping that happens, both intentionally of the kids who are cool and want the cool kids at their show and want the cool bands to play, but also unintentionally just through, like, I guess the right word is representation. I think it happens when you only see one type of person at an event or at a place. It kind of feels like it's only for them. It's like their club, and it's a call to take a look at yourself and say, like, are we doing the right things here? Are we contributing to the trash mentality, or is there something going on here that we could maybe make better by
being more mindful of
and
how to make the space feel more open? And yeah.
Satisfy the hand to mouth, give me something to do when my social battery runs out. It's a lazy conversation piece. Hey, get set, dude. Yeah, man, you too. It's the same white dudes in the same clicky scene, in the same trite tunes, and the same cuff jeans. And I wonder if I ever said anything worth the time with the mic that my whiteness has granted me.
That's the whole song.
Yeah.
It's short.
I love that one. I remember y'all playing that one before, and I was like, oh.
It's real fun when like you're playing at like on Wednesday, the other people playing with us, or like 2 out of the other 3 acts we were playing with had cuffed their jeans like that night. And I do cuff my jeans, disclaimer. Like I do that when they're too long or whatever, but yeah.
It's so good. And like, yeah,
it sounds like a call out, but it's self-reflective. All music
so
is.
Good. Marco and Travis are part of what we'll broadly call the southeastern Michigan DIY music world. It's a community that has a lot going on, and from the few times that I've passed through, it seems like a fabulous place to be, full of enthusiastic contributors and consumers of local music and arts. Folks who are engaged and intentional about what they've got going on at every level. The Plymouth Coffee Bean, a hub for young local artists and a welcoming, creative space in the small town of Plymouth, Michigan, outside of Detroit, served as Marco's musical stomping grounds for years in high school as he learned how to share his work with eager listeners. Their regular open mic nights and built-in community equipped him, as well as many others, to foray into music with greater confidence, refined skills, and a whole lot of support. Marco also told us about a nonprofit group that you might appreciate called In the Band. The organization, led by founder and director Nick Brandon, are actively investing time, effort, and money into fostering an inclusive, creative space for young musicians in the area. They're offering practice spaces, a stage, and various sorts of programming free of charge to local students. Their mission to provide community, access, and support for growing musicians in the Plymouth Canton area is totally donation funded, and you can learn more online at inthebandstudio.com or by taking a look at this episode's show notes. Now, in this next song, titled Minivan, Travis and Marco conjure a brilliant, youthful nostalgia as they recount an impromptu trip to escape civilization for a couple of days. With bright, mischievous lyrics, they take you along for the ride, and the feeling is timeless, exciting, and innocent. Makes you want to pack your bags, get out of here, and find yourself a change of pace. Find yourself some adventure.
You poke your head through the sunroof so you can watch the sunset. I admit there are moments that make everything worth it, but it makes me suspicious that my brain isn't working. Like when I'm happy, it could only mean I'm forgetting something. And the thing I think that makes it magic is the simple fact that we didn't plan it. I don't ever want to forget this. We got music, we got gas, and I'll bet this minivan could function pretty well as a bunk bed. So before I second guess this, would someone please just look up the directions? Wear this blanket like a cape, it is such a beautiful thing to feel like a total dumbass and not hate yourself for it. For once, can you see this? We just lie here, focus on one star, the whole sky will disappear. I've never seen them quite as bright as they are now. Each one of a kind, yeah, they're brilliant and dying. And the thing I think that makes it magic is the simple fact that we didn't plan it. I don't ever want to forget this. We got music, we got gas, and I'll bet this minivan could function pretty well as a bunk bed. So before I second guess this, would someone look up the directions? Melt this my brain down, let the molecules rearrange themselves. It don't matter if it won't last. Just let me have this minivan could function pretty well as a bunk bed.
It is not often that I will write like a happy song. Yeah. And part of that's because most of the time when I'm writing to get something off my chest. And when I'm happy, I don't like need to get it off my chest. I'm not like, oh my God, I just need to like let this out. Like in moments that I'm like very blissful, I am just kind of soaking in it. And so I wrote that song because there's like a true story that song is basically just like a narrative of a few friends and I took a little road trip to the Headlands International Dark Sky Park up north on Lake Michigan, or if that's the lake that it's on. Anyways, it's this park that has like a beach and trails and such, but in like a certain radius around the area, there's very, very minimal light pollution, which is not something you get really often. And so you can see the night sky like there very, very well, especially if the moon is not full that night. It's one of my favorite places in the world. Not that I've seen very many places in the world, but from what I got, that's one of my favorites. But that song is kind of like a way to preserve that memory so that I can not only share the feeling with other people, but so that I like don't forget it.
And what made that experience, that emotion so strong that you said, I have to get this off my chest?
February album writing month.
February album writing month. So let's talk about February album writing
tell me
month.
about it.
February album writing month is a challenge for songwriters to write 14 songs in the 28 days of February. They do it every year. There's an online community, fawm.org. If you are a songwriter listening to this podcast, I highly recommend doing it. It is a very good way to exercise your songwriting muscles, and it's yielded pretty much my whole discography that's out there as Marco Aziel. And so part of it was, I have 14 songs to write. What am I going to write about? And then realizing, like, you know, I struggle to write happy songs, but I'm like, if I'm going to write a happy song, it's like, I'm about to do a Harry Potter reference, you know? But if you have certain memories that like would be your like Patronus memories, you know? Thinking of things that I could really write genuinely happy about and not just feel like I wanted to write a happy song, so I just kind of bullshit a happy song. I don't like bullshit happy songs. I don't like songs that are just trying really hard to be happy. It doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't make me feel happy to hear them. So I wanted to pull from something that was like very true. And there's some nuggets of, you know, there's like some not super happy moments in the song, and it's hard for me to write a song that doesn't have some of that because that's just how it is. But I'm glad that overall the song conjures like a very happy mood, because that's kind of what I was really trying to encapsulate in it. I don't know that I would have written the song if it wasn't for February album writing month, if I didn't like have like a quota to fill. But like having that quota to fill motivated me to try to like really push my boundaries as far as what I normally revert to, like writing. So, but it's especially when we play that song to like familiar audiences, it's always a party to play the song. People like sing along to the chorus, and it's like a really great time. And in fact, recording the song is a very fun memory because we have a rehearsal like studio space, and I had invited some people to come over and do like gang vocals, like the people who that memory was shared with, to like come over and like sing like the gang vocals. And we had like a friend who had a room down the hall at the same space, and their band was like getting together that day. And so they came into the room to say hi, and we were like, hey, come sing some gang vocals. And then people just kept trickling into the room. And so so we just kind of like had a party like recording it too. It was like really fun. And so I think that might be one of the reasons why that song is kind of like one of the most popular on the album, is because it sounds like that. You can hear like a bunch of different voices, and like there's some giggles that you hear like post that I just didn't want to cut because they were so precious, you know?
And I love hearing giggles on like recordings.
If they don't feel forced, I love them.
Right. If they don't feel forced, people put more giggles on your recordings.
Please.
Don't cut those out.
I always love like the song that ends and then it's like, did we get that? You know, like, I like stuff like
So
that.
good.
It's a fine line. It's hard to do that and really make it sound genuine because so many people do it, but I love it. I really do.
If you can make it sound genuine, we need more of that. All right, y'all, for the sake of time, let's hop into Safe With Me. Is that right?
Yep. That is correct. We are sometimes so eager in our quest to find love that we neglect to step back and define it first. All your sentences saying don't take this the wrong way, it's already been a long day and the night is far from over. I am scatterbrained and scared. I come tripping up the stairs and through the door, and you're there rooted to the floor, and I don't dare disturb the peace. I enter silently, and I know you know it's me when I sit down next to you. And as the stillness shakes my room, I'm bathing in this ray of baby blue, and I know I'm safe with you. So when I say I love you, what I mean is I would pluck your eyeballs out and pop them in my sockets if it meant that I could see the world
I say I love you, all I mean is thank you for existing. I mean, you don't owe me nothing. No, I don't need you to need me. So if you really want me to leave, then I'm gone. Because I know you need your space, and I can't argue with the sense that makes. But when your heart or body aches, you can call me. Then you can use me like a crutch. I'll be your comfort blanket of human touch. And no, it don't offend me none. Honestly, all I need is when your back's pressed to my chest, your legs tangled in my legs. With every simple breath, you're safe with me.
Restless sleeper, something about the way you move makes me wonder what you think you have to lose. I don't like when I feel you slipping through my hands. Restless sleeper, I wanna be there when you land.
Today's episode of The Local Glow was produced by Brian Doherty, Victoria Thomas, Fred Villa, and myself, Tariq Shihadah. This episode's intro music was by Lowell Schaefer of Frail Body and It, with additional scoring by me. Today's outro music is the song Restless Sleeper by the fabulous, talented folks of Fay Ray. You're listening to it now. The Local Glow is an independent podcast based here in Chicago, Illinois. Our dream team includes Brian Doherty, Fred Villa, Victoria Thomas, and myself. You can support us and personally help keep this glow alive by becoming a patron at patreon.com/thelocalglow. You can learn more about this podcast on our newly revamped website, thelocalglow.com, on Facebook or Instagram at thelocalglow, or by emailing us at thelocalglow@gmail.com. And of course, please share this podcast with your friends so we can help spread these stories far and wide. Know that this show is all for the love of community and art. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't keep it to yourself.
Common